Welcome to Wake Up Productive Week 12. This session is called Your Personal Transformation. I've been very influenced by a guy named Werner Erhard. And Werner Erhard is a guy that has a very colorful and interesting past. Some people love his work, some people don't, but I think the guy has figured out some very profound stuff. He's the guy that created the seminar EST, back in the 70s and 80s, which then kind of stopped and then reformed and came out now as the Landmark Forum. And what Werner Erhard did was he integrated a lot of different concepts together, everything from Zen Buddhism to Dianetics to psychology and reality therapy, and he put it all together into this program. And in the program, he helped people face the things in their life that they weren't facing, helped them see what they didn't want to see, and helped them have breakthroughs. And Werner really is the guy that came up with this concept of transformation and figured out how to condense it into kind of a weekend seminar or an experience. And he's the one that I want to pay tribute to for the idea of the transformation. And in this session, we're going to take all of the pieces that we've put into our puzzle over the last 90 days or so, and we're going to integrate them together to hopefully create transformation. Because what it's really about here is becoming the next version of you, becoming a you that's greater than you thought you could ever becoming a you that is beyond even your own imagination, beyond the greatest version of you that you ever thought that you could possibly be. I think that possibly the most miraculous thing about being human is that we have the ability to see a more evolved version of ourselves in our mind and then make it come true. Think about that for a second. Think about how profound it is that you can imagine a more evolved, better physical shape, a person who knows something, someone with a better self-image. Imagine a person who knows a skill, and then you can go become it. You can imagine yourself as a higher, more evolved version of you, and then you can bring it into reality. This is so miraculous, it's so powerful, it's so profound, and most of us don't even really think about it. We don't understand how powerful it is. So in this particular session, I want to talk to you a little bit about how to use that power to transform yourself. Unfortunately, most of us have fallen prey to a few basic common processes that keep us from ever going to the next level. They hold us back. One of these, my mentor Jerry Ballinger taught me. He used the metaphor that life is like a painting that you're constantly painting. And you might imagine that you've got a wall, like this wall behind me here, and imagine that that's your life. And what most of us are doing is we're kind of going along painting the painting of our life. And we've created this whole story and this whole drama, and we can see how it unfolds. But we're painting our future based on what happened in the past. We're literally living into our future, but we're just extending the past. Tony Robbins has a great quote. He says, "The past does not equal the future." Werner Erhard, who, like I said, I think is a brilliant guy, he said that what most of us are doing in our imagination is we're putting our past into our future. And when you do that, what do you make come true? You make more of what happened in the past come true. So one of the things that we have to learn to stop doing is making our visions of the future, making the things that we think about what happened in the past. Okay, that's very critical. You got to get that distinction. So you got to notice where you're imagining things happening in the future that are going to be just like what happened in the past, and you're making things that happen in the past the foundation or the basis for everything that's going to happen in the future, rather than creating, rather than looking at the future and seeing a blank canvas and saying, I can create anything I want. I don't need to look at the past to figure out what the future is going to look like. And I especially don't need to do it habitually and unconsciously. Okay, so this is a good, important, kind of conscious realization to have. The next thing that we need to realize is that when we are resisting something, when we're trying to stop something or prevent something in our life, that we're actually giving it energy. Carl Jung has one of my very favorite quotes ever, and it is this: what you resist persists. Whatever it is that you resist persists. You'll notice that people who say, I'm trying to lose weight, wind up not able to lose weight. People who say, I'm trying to quit smoking or I'm trying to quit drinking, they can't quit smoking or quit drinking. Why? Because they're resisting it. They're trying to push away from it, which actually on an unconscious level makes them focus on it. It's the old, don't think of a big pink elephant with green polka dots. Okay, don't think of a big pink elephant with big green polka dots on it right now. You can't not, okay? It's impossible. So I said that and I told you not to do it, but you had to do it. Well, anything that you're resisting in your life, that you're putting negative energy into to try to resist, actually has you. And it's a very insidious kind of form. So what we want to do is we want to notice the things in life that we are resisting, and we want to let go of those things. We want to stop resisting them, and we want to stop putting energy into them. And this combination of two things, of letting go of the past, not needing to be kind of identified with the story that we had, and creating our future based on our past, being able to look at a blank canvas and say, I want to be able to create whatever I want to create. I want to see a new version of myself. I want to see a better reality. I want to see more success. And I want to keep focusing on that until I bring it into my reality, whatever that takes. And then the other side of the coin of letting go of resistance, of letting go of focusing on those things that we don't want in our life anymore, and only focus on that great outcome that we want to create. Those two things together can just be so incredibly powerful. Now, to do them, of course, you have to turn them into rituals. You have to turn them into things that you do on a regular basis. And we'll do an exercise a little bit later in this session to really create a ritual that'll help you do these consistently into your future. Another thing that we can do that is essentially miraculous is the idea of manufacturing optimism. This is a concept that I learned years ago from a guy named Dennis Waitley. He has an audio program that's very famous that's called The Psychology of Winning. And Dennis Waitley has worked with Olympic athletes and just a lot of high performance people. And he's trying to figure out what is it that allows these people to have high levels of performance and consistent performance and stamina, whereas the average person, can't even get themselves to go out for a walk every day. And one of the things that he found is that athletes and people that perform at high levels have the ability to literally manufacture their own optimism. They create optimism. Now, if you're not naturally an optimistic person, you might say, oh, why would you want to do that? Or isn't it artificial? And so forth and so on. Brian Tracy has a great example, and he says, if, let's say that you had a hard week of work, and you were discouraged because things weren't going very well and you weren't making any sales and you were worried about finances and you were all bummed out, and you called home and your spouse said, well, you know what? You don't have to worry about any of that because we just won the lottery. We just won $10 million in the lottery and all of our problems are solved and you don't have to worry. And you said, oh, that's fantastic. And you got all excited, and after the phone call, let's say you drove home, you thought about all the things you were going to buy, you thought about the house you were going to get, you thought about how, oh, you're on easy street now, and you felt all of this optimism, and then you got home and your spouse said to you, you know what, I was just kidding around. But you sounded so bummed out that I had to do something to cheer you up, and I thought, why not tell you that we won the lottery? Now, after you got finished killing your spouse, you have to ask yourself, was the joy and the optimism that you experienced when you thought that you won the lottery and you thought that you had $10 million in cash waiting for you, was that real? Was it authentic? And I think that you'll come to the realization that it was. That when you're feeling an emotion, it is real for you in the moment. Now, it turns out that some people can manufacture optimism even when they're in the most dire and the most horrible of situations. Most people would think of these situations as dire and horrible. If you've read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, you'll read about how this guy who's in a concentration camp in the worst possible environment in the most depressing and humiliating and cold and rough and, I mean, just the worst situation a human could probably be in, how he finds joy and he finds optimism and enthusiasm in the smallest thing. He gets an extra pea in his soup when he gets his bowl of soup, and he can find joy in that. And it really turns out you learn that optimism and joy all come from internal comparison, of comparing where you are to where other people are or where you could be, and you learn that it is possible to think about things differently and to make yourself feel more optimistic, to feel more inspired and more energized. Here are a couple of tips for how to do that. So number one, the way to make yourself feel bad is to think about people who have it better than you. Think about how good things used to be and look at how bad things are now. Okay? If you look at how things are bad for you and how they're good for other people, you can almost guarantee that you will feel bad. It's a universal. Okay? So the way we torture ourselves with this is when someone else gets a raise at work and we think we deserve a raise, we flip out and we get all upset and we say, oh, they didn't deserve it, I deserve that raise. Instead of saying, what is positive in this situation? And saying, there's these 5 other people and I make more money than them, and I really should feel very good about this. I actually was working with someone recently who's a trained evolutionary psychologist who is a brilliant expert and who knows all of these things about all these biases and how we make decisions, and knows about all the experiments and knows about this contrast thing. And we were negotiating to have this person do some work with me. And we were negotiating it and we were making some good progress. And then they came back to me and they said, well, you know what? Actually, what I'd like to do is I'd like to be paid what you paid this other person who you worked with in the past a couple of years ago. And I said, wow, where did that come from? And I realized that this person heard that I had paid some other person for another project a certain amount. And again, a trained psychologist, right? Someone who's been doing this all their life and knows how irrational that is and how ridiculous, all of a sudden just said, nope, you know what? Forget all that stuff we were talking about. I want to be paid what they were paid. So this is, it's kind of you might almost call it a natural thing for us to do because we tend to do it so often that we just get pulled to it, but it will really rob you of your enthusiasm. So number one, stop comparing yourself to people who have it better. Stop looking at how bad things are. Stop focusing on that, and instead switch the whole situation around and start looking at how good you have it. As soon as you find yourself looking at how things are unfair, or how someone has it better than you, or how someone got lucky and did well and you should have done, as soon as you catch it, stop and say, wait a minute. Let me look at all the people that have it worse than me. Let me look at people who are less fortunate than me. Let me look at people who, what I'm experiencing, they would look at me and say, wow, that's unfair that you have all of that. And as soon as you switch your perception, you'll notice that your emotional and your psychological state will change instantly. Okay, so focus on where you have it good and focus on where you have it better than others. Notice that. It's good for the soul as well. Another great technique that I've learned is noticing how far you've come rather than looking at how far you have to go. If you're working on a project in business and you look out and you say, wow, look at all that work we have left to do, you're going to get that response of, man, I don't want to do all that stuff. Whereas if you look back and you say, okay, let me think about where we started and let me look at all the progress we've made, that will really energize you. I once read about the CEO of one of the big corporations in America. I think it was the CEO of the Levi Strauss company, if I recall. He actually keeps a journal, and every time he has a great accomplishment, he writes it down in the journal. And he's got page after page. He's got hundreds and hundreds of these. Every time he has a great accomplishment, he just writes it down. And he goes through on a regular basis, and he just notices how much progress he's made in his life. People that are chronically unhappy are always looking at how far they've got to go, where they're at, and how they're never going to get where they're trying to go. Dan Sullivan, the guy who started The Strategic Coach, who's one of the most brilliant trainers of entrepreneurs that's ever lived, he calls this the gap. And he says that, we make these idealistic futures that we have, we create in our minds, and then we say, oh, look at how far I am from it, or we perform, and then we go, oh, I didn't live up to my standards, and we make ourselves feel bad, rather than looking back at where we started, and then we perform and we say, wow, look at how much progress we've made. So, looking at how far you've come, not how far you go, is intrinsically inspiring, energizing, and motivating. Okay, so start looking at how far you've come. Start focusing on how far you've come, because it'll inspire you to, today, take some more steps to get a little bit further. And then when you notice how far you've gotten there, it'll inspire you to go a little bit further. And every once in a while, take a look out into the future and say, yeah, I'm going to climb that mountain, but don't get focused on it in a way that takes your energy away and makes you feel uninspired and demotivates you. The next thing I'd like to talk to you about, and this could be the most powerful single technique or method you can use for personal transformation, is to find a mentor. Finding a mentor, someone who has gone down the road that you'd like to go down, and who has achieved mastery, and who has now come back and who wants to help others go down that road, is, like I said, it's probably the most powerful single kind of trick or technique you can use to transform yourself and get to the next level. Why is this so powerful? Well, on one level, what you're doing is you're surrounding yourself by success. This is the mastermind principle or the reference group principle. Whatever you surround yourself with, those ideas, those behaviors, those emotional patterns, you learn them by association unconsciously, just by watching them, so they go into your head. So that's one reason. Another reason is because a mentor can see the next version of you, can see the next level of you that you can't even see. Okay, because they've seen others develop, and they know all you've got to do is do these few things and you'll get to the next level, and they can show you the picture. They can say, all you need to do is these 4 things, practice them for 30 days, and then you will be at the next level. And that is very, very inspiring. There's something that is intrinsically, emotionally inspiring about seeing someone who has done it, okay, and then have them come back and say to you, you can do that too. I know you can do it. I've worked with others who have done it. You just have to take these few steps and then you can get there. It fires you up. It gets you moving. So if you can, find a mentor. I think it's important to always have at least one mentor going at any time in your life. And you want to rotate between a mentor in your physical life, your emotional life, your intellectual, mental life, and your spiritual life. So if you've never had a physical mentor before, go work with someone for a little while who can help you get in better shape, can teach you yoga, can teach you how to do breath work, can teach you how to eat correctly and how to diet, can teach you how to take care of your skin. I mean, there are people in all walks of life now that can teach you how to take care of your physical life. Get an emotional mentor. Find yourself someone who can teach you and coach you in how to have better relationships, how to have a better inner emotional life. You might want to go work with a therapist for a while. You might want to go work with a yogi for a while. They can help you integrate your emotions and your mind and your body and put them all together. Get intellectual coaches, people that can teach you things, people that can teach you about different areas that you didn't know about. Get yourself a spiritual coach. Find yourself someone to teach you meditation or teach you a spiritual practice. Always have at least one mentor in your life, one person that you're working one-on-one with that's helping you develop into the next version of you. So let's do a few final exercises. You're going to need some blank paper for these. The first exercise I'd like to do is I'd like you to make a list of all the places in your life where you're living your past into your future, where you're taking everything that's happened to you and you're making that what's going to happen in the future. It might be maybe you're addicted to junk food, and maybe the story you tell yourself is, you know what, I'm just addicted to it and I'm always going to be. Maybe you have conflict with someone in your family, and maybe you expect that conflict, and every time you're going to see that person, you're thinking about the conflict that's going to happen. Okay? Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's just laziness. Maybe you're not taking care of your physical body, and by now in this program, hopefully you've gotten past that. But maybe you're just, you haven't overcome that, and maybe it's time for you to, recognize that you've just projected into the future that I'm always going to be lazy, and I'm never going to get myself into shape. So I'd like you to list all the places where you've been making your story that you tell yourself in the past, that story that your drama that you live in your past, and you're making that in the future, and so you make it come true every day. And then the next list that I'd like you to make is of all those things in life that you're resisting, that you're putting psychological and emotional and physical energy into trying to stop or trying to prevent or trying to argue with or trying to push against. Okay, so make those two lists just to kind of make yourself conscious of those things. All the things in your life where you're making your past into your future, and all the things in your life where you're resisting, where you're pushing against things. So make those two lists, and then you're going to want to pause the video and then come back when you're finished. Exercise number 2. Let's manufacture some optimism, okay? First, we want to become conscious of where we're comparing ourselves negatively and where we're looking at things and where we feel like we're being treated unfairly, where we're looking out into the future and making an idealized version of something that's really unrealistic and then making ourselves feel bad when we don't achieve it. And I mean, this can even be things like religious ideals or ideals that our parents had of us that they put into us, and then when we don't do it, it doesn't come true. I'm not talking about positive goals here where you set a positive goal and you say, okay, I'm going to achieve that. I'm talking about these unrealistically high expectations or ideals that we have where we look at them and we go, oh, I'm not there yet and I'm making myself feel bad. So we want to make a list of all the places where we're comparing ourselves negatively and making ourselves feel bad. And then make a list of all of the progress that you've made over the last several years of your life. Try to put maybe 3 to 5 things on each list just to get the hang of this. And notice when you're writing down those things where you compare and make yourself feel bad, where you feel unfair and you feel like things are unjust and where you feel like that was wrong, or where that person's lucky and I'm not. Notice how you feel when you're even writing down where you do it. And then as you're writing about the progress you've made, the accomplishments that you've created, notice how you feel when you're just writing those down and remembering them. Okay, make those 2 lists right now. Third exercise, where do you need to get a mentor? Physically, emotionally, logically, intellectually, or on a spiritual level? Which one do you think will have the most leverage? You might think, well, of all things, maybe if I just get myself in great physical shape, that'll really support me emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. I couldn't agree more. That can have a huge impact on all the rest. If you're not healthy physically, you might want to start there. Maybe you're in good physical shape, but maybe you don't really deal with your emotions well. Maybe you get angry or you repress your emotions. Maybe it's time to go get an emotional coach or even a therapist and to have someone work with you to help get that emotional system really going. Or maybe there's a skill you need to learn and maybe you're intimidated by it. Maybe you don't know as much about technology as you'd like to learn, and you need to get a technology coach who will take you and teach you about how computers work and how to set up technology or how to use it. I don't know. Maybe you need a spiritual coach. Maybe you've neglected that area of your life, and it would be good to take up a spiritual practice and to get a spiritual mentor who will help you work through the different blocks you have and help kind of elevate that part of you so that you can feel like your life has more meaning and purpose and like you're more connected to all things that are. Where can you get a mentor? Where do you need to get a mentor right now? So take a blank piece of paper and just start making a list of everything that comes to mind where you could get mentored. And once you're finished, pick the one that's really clearly the place where you need to get a mentor. So quick, do that exercise and then come back for the final exercise. Now this session is about transformation. In those 3 exercises that you just did, hopefully you made conscious some material that can really help you in the future. I recommend that you keep doing these exercises on a regular basis. And you do them on paper, and you get to the point where you do them so much and you get so good at them that you actually wind up having them be a ritual that you do intellectually all the time. So you notice when you're resisting something. You notice when you're comparing yourself to something negative. When you realize you need some optimism, you say, okay, let me look at all the progress that I've made, and you create optimism for yourself. That you are always looking for the next level and you're always looking for a mentor. Okay, I hope that these create fuel. So do these 3 sets of exercises on a regular basis. You might want to do them once a week for 90 days or so until you find that you're just doing them. Understanding them is not the key here. Doing them over and over and over until they become a natural part of who you are, that's the key. And now the final exercise. This is really the culmination of everything that we've been working on in this process. I mentioned to you that perhaps the greatest miracle of being human is being able to imagine another version of yourself and to go to the next level. And a lot of people ask, what is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? What does it all mean? And there are a lot of people that have different answers for that, but I'd like to do an exercise with you to help you find some meaning and help you find the purpose in your life. Because ultimately, if you want to be the most productive and you want to be the most fulfilled and the most satisfied and you want to contribute the most to the world, then I think you need to get in touch with this. So for this exercise, you're going to need a blank piece of paper like this. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to fold this paper down the middle like so. And we're going to unfold it. And I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you divide this into 6 sections. So you're going to need to draw 5 lines on the paper. So you've got 6 sections like this. Okay, I obviously didn't do a perfect job, but that's okay. Then fold the right half behind the left half, so you just have this half like this. And what I'd like you to do is, in the first 3 kind of boxes that you have, I'd like you to write the name of someone who you really dislike. Okay? Someone that you might even hate, someone you despise, dislike, really don't like them. Okay? And if you're the kind of person that doesn't have a lot of animosity toward people, I think you get the idea of what I'm saying. But write down the names of 3 people who you just don't admire. Okay? And they might be people you know, they might be historical figures, whoever you want. They might even be mythical characters that you read about. They don't have to be real people. But write down the names of 3 people that you really dislike or hate or despise. Do that now. Okay, good. Next, what I would like you to do is in the next 3 boxes, okay, the bottom 3, I'd like you to write the names of 3 people who you really admire, okay, who you have the greatest admiration and respect for. People who really embody the qualities and the ethics and everything that you think is admirable in a human being. Okay, and again, they can be people you know, people you don't know, famous people, mythological characters, characters that you saw in a movie. But write down the names of 3 people who you really admire and respect most. Next, what I'd like you to do is open the paper up. And now on the right-hand side, okay, next to the 3 people that you listed who you dislike or you hate or you despise, write down the one quality about each of those people that you dislike the most. What is the quality of their character, or what is it about them that you hate? Okay, what is it that you really despise about them or disrespect? 1 for each, and you write it in the box right next to their name. You're going to want to pause the video, so just do that now. Pause the video and write down the one quality that you really, really despise or disrespect the most about each of those 3 people. Okay, you're probably getting the idea now. Next to each of the 3 people that you admire and respect, okay, the people that you really think are the greatest people who have ever lived, that you really just have massive admiration for, write down the one thing about them or the quality about them that you admire and respect the most. Okay, so in the box on the other side of the paper, write down that one thing that you admire and respect about the most, the quality that they have that really causes you to have that admiration. Okay, do that now. Good job. Now what we've done here, this is actually an exercise that my friend Joe Polish taught me, and I just, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's one of the most profound things I've ever seen. What we're doing here is we're taking advantage of a tendency that our minds and our emotions have to project. The concept of projection, which is about projecting out onto others qualities that we have internally inside of ourselves. And what I'd like you to do now is to take your piece of paper and fold it again and turn it over so that you can't see the names of the people that you listed. You can only see the qualities. And this is a very simple exercise. And the idea here, and you take this with a grain of salt, the 3 qualities that you despise in the 3 people that you really don't admire, those actually are the 3 qualities that you don't like inside of yourself. And the 3 qualities that you admire most about other people, those are your 3 greatest qualities that you haven't developed in yourself. and that you haven't allowed to shine within you. And the point of this exercise is that the 3 qualities that you've listed up at the top, which are 3 qualities that you don't admire, that you hate or despise in other people, these are actually the 3 qualities of yourself that you hate and despise the most, but that you don't acknowledge that you even have them. And the 3 qualities that you've listed below for the 3 people that you admire, these are actually your 3 best qualities that you won't allow to develop inside of you. You won't acknowledge and see them in yourself and then cultivate them. And so according to this exercise, the purpose of your life is to recognize and look into your shadow, look into your dark side, and see that these are your 3 negative qualities that you need to learn to let go of, to integrate, to find the light side of. And these are your 3 positive qualities that you haven't recognized and cultivated in yourself, and that in your life, your purpose is about cultivating these 3 qualities so that you can give your greatest gifts and give your greatest contribution to the world. So, now that you know what they are, you might want to write them down and you might want to start reviewing them. We've reached the end of the Wake Up Productive program. If you have done all of the exercises in this program and you have your personal success ritual in the morning that you have been doing now for 3 months, if you've been using the 60-60-30 solution and you're working in solid 60-minute chunks of focused, uninterrupted time, actually the 50-10s where you work for 50 and take the break for 10 and then do your 30-minute breaks, if you're getting enough sleep, if you're getting enough water, if you're surrounding yourself with the people that you need to become successful, if you're surrounding yourself with the environment and the tools that you need to become successful, and you've been doing all the things that you've learned in this program, then you are waking up right now every day at least twice as productive as when you started. And if you are not waking up twice as productive as when you started, it means you're not doing what you learned. Now, this program is not something that you just go through once and then it's over. The tools that you've learned are tools that you should use for the rest of your life. Creating positive rituals, noticing where there's friction in your life, learning to focus your time in uninterrupted blocks of long periods of time, of focusing on one thing, of changing channels, of getting rid of your inner butterflies, of integrating your dark side and your shadow, of not living out of your past but living into your future, and of developing these qualities that are your qualities that you haven't recognized. This is what success and productivity in life is about. And I really hope that you take these tools and you use them every day, literally for the rest of your life, because the more you use them, the more powerful that they will become. And you'll find that the more you use them, the more they'll increase, and they'll exponentially increase, and you'll double your productivity again, and you'll double your productivity again, and you'll double it again. And eventually you'll get to the point where you have all the choices, all the success, and all the love, all the joy, and just all the abundance that you want in your life. These tools will help you get it all. So thank you for taking part in the Wake Up Productive program, and I wish you well.